Commander Jake Harrison stood in the main control room of the space station Meridian. He looked at the message on his screen for the third time. The words made him angry, but he kept his face calm. The Galactic Survival Council thought they could embarrass humans with their new test. The message was simple but mean. 12 different alien species had tried to pass survival tests on many planets. Humans had passed all 12 tests. This made the aliens upset. They did not like that humans were so good at staying alive in bad places. Now the aliens wanted to try something new. They picked the coldest, most deadly place they could find. It was a moon called Cryo 7. The temperature there dropped to minus 180 degrees. That was cold enough to freeze a person solid in minutes. 7 different alien species had already tried the test. All of them failed. Most of them gave up in the first day. Some of them almost died. The aliens thought this would finally stop humans from bragging about how tough they were. Jake read the rules again. No advanced tools, no heated clothes, no energy weapons, no warm shelters, just basic hand tools and whatever a person could find on the moon. The only help allowed was one emergency button that would call for rescue. The test was 10 days long. 10 days on a moon so cold that water turned to ice in seconds. 10 days with nothing but simple tools and basic clothes. The aliens were sure no human could do it. Jake smiled. The aliens did not understand humans very well. They thought being tough meant having thick skin or natural body heat. They did not know that humans were tough in a different way. Humans were smart. Humans could think their way out of problems that would kill other species. He walked to the communication panel and sent a message back to the Alien Council. The message was short. Challenge accepted. Within an hour, Jake had called Sergeant Lisa Bryant to his office. Lisa was from Alaska on Earth. She had grown up in places where winter lasted 8 months. She knew how to stay warm when everything around her was trying to freeze her to death. Lisa was 32 years old and had spent 15 years learning survival skills. She was not the biggest person in the Earth Defense Corps. She was not the strongest, but she was the smartest when it came to staying alive in cold places. They want to test us on an ice moon, Jake told her. He showed her the pictures of Cryo 7. The moon looked like a white ball of death. There were no trees, no animals, no shelter anywhere. Just ice and snow and wind that could cut through a person like a knife. Lisa looked at the pictures for a long time. She asked questions about the temperature, the wind speed, and what kind of ice was on the surface. She wanted to know if there was any sunlight. She asked about the air pressure and the length of the days. The aliens think this is impossible, Jake said. 7 species have tried. All of them failed. They think humans will fail too. Lisa smiled. It was not a worried smile. It was the smile of someone who knew something the aliens did not know. What tools can I take? Jake read from the alien rules. Basic hand tools only. Simple knife, small shovel, rope, basic clothes. No power tools, no heaters, no advanced materials. What about food? Emergency rations for 3 days. After that, you have to find your own food or go hungry. Lisa nodded. She was quiet for a moment thinking. Then she said, I need to study the moon more, but I think I can do this. The aliens do not understand how humans think about cold weather. What do you mean? Other species try to fight the cold. They use their natural body heat or thick skin. They try to stay warm by burning energy. But humans learned long ago that you do not fight the cold. You work with it, you make the cold work for you. Jake did not understand, but he trusted Lisa. She had never failed a survival test. She had lived in places that would kill most people. If anyone could pass this test, it was her. The news about the challenge spread quickly through human space. People were excited. Some were worried. The aliens had made it clear that this test was designed to be impossible. They wanted to prove that humans were not as tough as they claimed to be. But humans had been surprising aliens for years. Every time the aliens thought they understood human limits, humans found a way to go beyond those limits. This test would be no different. Lisa spent the next week studying everything about Cryo 7. She learned about the ice formations. She studied the wind patterns. She looked at pictures of the surface and made plans. The aliens were broadcasting the challenge across the galaxy. They wanted everyone to see humans fail. They set up cameras and observation equipment. They prepared to watch Lisa give up and call for rescue. But Lisa had different plans. She was going to show the aliens what human intelligence could do. She was going to turn their impossible test into a lesson about human survival skills. The transport ship was ready. Lisa had her simple tools and basic clothes. She had her emergency rations and her rescue button. But most importantly, she had thousands of years of human knowledge about surviving in cold places. The aliens thought they had created an impossible test. They were about to learn that for humans, impossible was just another word for interesting. The transport ship dropped Lisa on the surface of Krios 7 just as the sun was coming up. The cold hit her like a punch in the face. The wind was so strong it almost knocked her down. Snow blew everywhere, making it hard to see more than a few feet ahead. Lisa took a deep breath. The air was so cold it hurt her lungs, but she had felt cold like this before in Alaska. She knew how to handle it. Above her, in a warm observation ship, the aliens were watching. They had cameras pointed at her from every angle. They wanted to record every moment of her failure. Crystal Singer Nexus was the leader of the Zephyrian observers. His body was made of living crystal that could handle cold weather better than most species. Even he thought this test was too hard for any living thing. "How long do you think she will last?" asked Dr. Vex Plural 7. The insect-like alien had mandibles that clicked when he talked. "The others usually call for rescue in 6 hours. "Look at her," said Nexus. "She is already shaking from the cold. Humans have no natural protection against this temperature. I give her 4 hours at most." But Lisa was not shaking from fear. She was shaking to keep her blood moving. It was an old human trick for staying warm. She looked around at the landscape and smiled. The aliens had given her everything she needed to survive. They just did not know it yet. The surface of Krios 7 was covered with hard-packed snow. Perfect snow. Snow that had been frozen and pressed by wind for thousands of years. Lisa had grown up building snow forts with snow like this. But she was not going to build a fort. She was going to build something much better. Lisa took out her small shovel and started cutting blocks from the hard snow. Each block was about the size of a brick. She cut them carefully, making sure each one fit together with the others. "What is she doing?" asked Plural 7. "Why is she not looking for shelter?" "She is wasting energy," said Nexus. "Humans are not very smart when they panic." But Lisa was not panicking. She was working with a plan. She had done this before many times, in the cold places of Earth. She knew exactly what she was doing. The aliens watched as Lisa placed the snow blocks in a circle. Then she started adding more blocks on top, making the circle smaller with each row. She was building something, but the aliens could not understand what it was. "Is she making some kind of wall?" asked Plural 7. "It does not look very strong," said Nexus. "The wind will blow it down." But Lisa kept working. She used her knife to shape each block so it fit perfectly with the others. She used loose snow to fill the gaps between blocks. Slowly, the structure began to take shape. After 3 hours of work, Lisa had built a dome-shaped shelter. It looked like half of a ball made of snow blocks. There was a small opening at the bottom that she could crawl through. The aliens were confused. They ran scans of the structure with their instruments. What they found surprised them. "The temperature inside is 20 degrees warmer than outside," said Plural 7. "How is that possible?" "There is no heat source," said Nexus. "She has no fire, no energy, no way to make heat. This must be a mistake." But their instruments were not wrong. Lisa had crawled inside her snow dome and the temperature was rising. By the time the sun set and the deadly night cold began, Lisa was warm and comfortable inside her shelter. The aliens checked their instruments again and again. They could not understand how a simple pile of snow blocks could keep someone warm. They had studied the failed attempts of 7 other species. All of them had tried to find natural caves or dig holes in the ground. None of them had tried to build anything. Lisa had built what her people called an igloo. It was an old human invention from the coldest parts of Earth. The dome shape was perfect for holding in heat. The thick snow walls kept out the wind, and, most important of all, the igloo used Lisa's own body heat to warm the inside. As the night got colder, the inside of the igloo got warmer. The heat from Lisa's body melted a tiny bit of the inner wall, then froze again. This made a thin layer of ice that sealed the igloo and made it even better at keeping heat inside. Lisa took out her emergency rations and ate a small meal. She was hungry, but she was not cold. She was not scared. She was comfortable. Outside, the temperature dropped to minus 190 degrees. It was cold enough to freeze metal. It was cold enough to kill any living thing in minutes. But inside the igloo, Lisa was warm enough to take off her outer jacket. The aliens could not believe what they were seeing. Their thermal cameras showed Lisa sitting comfortably inside her snow shelter. She was not shivering. She was not calling for help. She looked like she was having a nice camping trip. "This is impossible," said Nexus. "No creature can be comfortable in these conditions without advanced technology. Maybe the humans have some kind of secret heating device," said Plural 7. "Something we cannot detect." But deep scans showed no hidden technology. Lisa had built her shelter using nothing but snow, simple tools, and human knowledge. She had turned the deadly cold of Cryo 7 into her friend instead of her enemy. When morning came, Lisa crawled out of her igloo and stretched. She looked up at the alien observation ship and waved. Then she started cutting more snow blocks. "What is she doing now?" asked Plural 7. "I think," said Nexus slowly, "she is building another one." The aliens realized they might have made a big mistake. They had created a test that was supposed to be impossible for any living creature. But Lisa was not just surviving, she was thriving. And she was just getting started. On the second day, Lisa started building her second igloo right next to the first one. The aliens watched from their warm ship, trying to understand what she was planning. They had never seen anything like this before. "Why does she need 2 shelters?" asked Plural 7. "The first one is already too good at keeping her warm." Crystal Singer Nexus did not answer. He was studying the thermal readings from Lisa's first igloo. The inside temperature had stayed warm all night, even when the outside temperature dropped low enough to freeze the air itself. Lisa worked steadily through the morning, cutting snow blocks and fitting them together. But this time she did something different. She built a tunnel that connected the second igloo to the first one. "She is connecting them," said Nexus. "But why?" Lisa crawled through the tunnel between the 2 igloos. The aliens watched their instruments show something that should have been impossible. The tunnel was actually making both igloos warmer. Dr. Plural 7 ran more scans. "The air is moving between the 2 structures. Warm air from her body heat is flowing through the tunnel and heating both spaces." "That makes no sense," said Nexus. "Moving air should make things colder, not warmer." But the instruments did not lie. Lisa had created a system where her body heat was being spread through 2 separate spaces. She had turned 1 igloo into 2 igloos, and both were warm and comfortable. On D. The third day, Lisa built a 3rd igloo, then a 4th. Each one was connected to the others by tunnels that she dug through the hard-packed snow. The alien observers watched in growing amazement as Lisa's small camp became a complex network of connected shelters. By the 5th day, Lisa had 5 igloos connected by tunnels. She had turned a small piece of the deadly ice moon into something that looked like a village. Each igloo had a different purpose. One was for sleeping, one was for storing food, one was for working on tools, one was for cooking, and one was just for relaxing. "This is not possible," said Nexus. "She has created a warm living space on a moon where 7 advanced species failed to survive even 1 day." But Lisa was not done yet. She had discovered that the tunnels did more than just connect the igloos. They also moved air around in a way that spread heat through the whole system. The warm air from her body moved through the tunnels like blood through veins, keeping every part of her network warm. The most amazing thing was the floors. Lisa had figured out how to make the floors warm by digging channels under each igloo and connecting them to the tunnel system. Warm air flowed under the floors and came up through small holes, heating the space from below. The alien observers had to check their instruments over and over again. The readings showed that Lisa's Igloo network was not just warm enough to keep her alive, it was actually comfortable. Some parts were warmer than the common areas on their own observation ship. "She has created a heating system," said Plural 7. "But she has no energy source, no fire, no power. How is this possible?" Nexus was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "She is using physics. The shape of the igloos traps heat. The tunnels move the heat around. The human body creates the energy, and her design makes it work for the whole system." On the 6th day, Lisa did something that made the aliens question everything they knew about survival. She built a small room connected to her network that was filled with warm, humid air. She had created a sauna. Lisa had found a way to heat stones using concentrated sunlight and mirrors, made from ice. She poured water on the hot stones to make steam. The steam filled the small room, creating a hot, wet environment that was the opposite of the deadly cold outside. The aliens watched Lisa sit in her ice sauna, relaxing in temperatures that were warm enough for a tropical planet. She was not just surviving on their impossible test moon, she was living better than some species lived on their own home worlds. "How is she heating the stones?" asked Plural 7. "Look at this," said Nexus. He pointed to his instruments. "She has made mirrors from clear ice. She is using them to focus sunlight into concentrated beams. The focused light is hot enough to heat the stones." Lisa had taken the weak sunlight from Creo 7's distant star and turned it into a tool. She had made mirrors from ice and lenses from frozen water. She was using the most basic physics to create advanced results. The Alien Council back on their homeworlds was getting reports about Lisa's progress. They could not believe what they were hearing. The test that was supposed to prove human weakness was instead proving human strength. Other alien species that had failed the test were demanding to know how Lisa was doing it. They wanted to study her methods. They wanted to understand how a supposedly primitive species could do things they could not do with all their natural advantages. By the end of day 7, Lisa's Igloo network covered almost a quarter of an acre. She had multiple levels, connected by ramps and stairs made of packed snow. She had storage areas that kept food frozen but accessible. She had workshop areas where she made better tools from ice and stone. The aliens realized they were not watching a survival test anymore. They were watching a human colonize a piece of their most deadly test environment. Lisa had not just passed their impossible test, she had made it look easy. "We need to report this to the High Council," said Nexus. "They will not believe it, but they need to know." "What do we tell them?" asked Plural 7. "We tell them the truth," said Nexus. "We tell them that humans do not just survive impossible conditions, they make impossible conditions into comfortable homes." Lisa waved at the observation ship again and went back to her work. She was adding decorative ice sculptures to her network now, just because she could. The aliens watched in silence, finally understanding that they had not created a test for humans. They had created an opportunity for humans to show off. By day 8, the alien observation team had given up trying to understand what Lisa was doing. They just watched in amazement as she continued to improve her ice city. What had started as a simple survival test had become something much more impressive. Lisa had turned survival into an art form. Her Igloo network now had different levels connected by ice ramps. She had built walls to block the wind and channels to direct the flow of warm air. Every part of her design worked together to create a place that was not just livable, but actually pleasant. Crystal Singer Nexus sent daily reports to the Galactic Council. Each report was harder to write than the last. How could he explain that? A human was not just surviving their most deadly test, but was actually enjoying it? "Today the human built a greenhouse," he wrote in his report. "She is growing food plants inside a structure made of clear ice. The plants are actually growing in temperatures that should freeze them solid in seconds." The greenhouse was Lisa's proudest achievement so far. She had found a way to make clear ice that worked like glass. She built a small dome and filled it with soil made from melted snow and organic matter from her emergency rations. The concentrated sunlight from her ice mirrors kept the greenhouse warm enough for small plants to grow. Dr. Plural 7 studied the greenhouse with his instruments. "The internal temperature is 40 degrees above freezing," he reported. She has created a tropical environment inside an ice structure on a moon where the average temperature is minus 180 degrees. Lisa had also solved the problem of food. She was growing sprouts and small vegetables in her greenhouse. She had learned to preserve meat by freezing it in natural ice storage areas. She had even found a way to make hot soup by heating snow in containers made from carved ice. The alien observers were forced to admit that Lisa was not just surviving better than the 7 species that had failed before her. She was living better than many species lived on their own planets. On day 9, Lisa did something that made the aliens question their entire understanding of technology and survival. She built a workshop where she was making advanced tools using only ice, stone, and metal from her basic equipment. She has made cutting tools that are sharper than standard military equipment, reported Nexus. She is using techniques to shape and harden ice that we have never seen before. Lisa had discovered that ice could be made harder than metal if it was shaped and frozen in the right way. She made knives that could cut through almost anything. She made hammers that could break stone. She made precise tools that allowed her to build even more complex structures. The workshop was connected to her heating system, so she could work in comfort even when the outside temperature dropped to its deadliest levels. She had tools hanging on ice walls and workbenches made from carved snow blocks. It looked like the workshop of a master craftsman, not the desperate shelter of a survival test victim. But the most impressive part of Lisa's settlement was the library. She had carved information into ice walls, creating a permanent record of everything she had learned about surviving on Cryo 7. Future humans who came to this moon would be able to read her notes and learn from her experience. She is not just surviving, said Plural 7. She is building something permanent. She is creating a base that other humans could use. Nexus realized that this was exactly what Lisa was doing. She was not thinking about just passing the test. She was thinking about how humans could live on Cryo 7 permanently. She was turning an impossible survival challenge into a colonization project. The Alien Council back on the homeworlds was in emergency session. The reports from Cryo 7 were causing panic among some species and embarrassment among others. How could they explain that their most impossible test had been turned into a comfortable living situation by a single human? Some aliens were demanding that the test be stopped. They said it was unfair that humans had abilities that other species did not have. Others wanted to study Lisa's methods so they could learn from them. The humans are cheating somehow, insisted the representative from the Korvac Empire. No species can do what she is doing without advanced technology. But the monitors showed no hidden devices. Lisa was using only the tools and materials that were allowed by the test rules. She was just using them in ways that no other species had thought of. The Zephyrian High Command was especially embarrassed. Their species was naturally adapted to cold environments, but Crystal Singer Nexus reported that Lisa's ice settlement was more comfortable than many Zephyrian military outposts. On the night of day 9, Lisa held a celebration in her main igloo. She cooked a feast using vegetables from her greenhouse and preserved meat from her storage areas. She ate by the light of oil lamps made from ice and materials from her emergency pack. The aliens watched the thermal imaging of Lisa's celebration. She was warm, well-fed, and comfortable. She looked like someone enjoying a vacation, not someone struggling to survive an impossible test. Tomorrow is the last day, said Plural 7. What do you think she will do? Nexus looked at the sprawling ice settlement that Lisa had built. I think she will probably build something even more impressive, just to make sure we understand the point. What point? That humans do not just survive impossible situations. They turn impossible situations into opportunities to show how capable they really are. The alien observers prepared for the final day of the test. They knew that Lisa had already passed. She had done more than survive for 10 days. She had created a small civilization on a moon that was supposed to kill her. The question now was not whether humans could survive impossible conditions. The question was what humans would do next, now that they had proven once again that there was no such thing as impossible when humans put their minds to solving a problem. On the morning of day 10, Lisa woke up in her warm sleeping igloo and smiled. She had done more than just survive the alien test. She had built something amazing. Today was the last day, and she wanted to end with something special. She walked through her tunnel system to the workshop Igloo. Over the past 10 days, she had turned a small area of the deadly ice moon into a place where humans could live comfortably. Her settlement had everything a person needed: warm shelter, food production, clean water, and even entertainment areas. Lisa looked at her ice library where she had carved detailed instructions for building everything in her settlement. Any human who came to Cryo 7 in the future would be able to read her notes and build their own warm home in just a few days. At exactly noon on day 10, Lisa pressed her emergency beacon. But she was not calling for rescue. The beacon had two settings: emergency rescue and mission complete. Lisa pressed mission complete. The alien observation ship received the signal and prepared to collect her. Crystal Singer Nexus and Dr. Plural 7 suited up in their heavy cold weather gear and took a shuttle down to the surface. They found Lisa sitting in her main igloo, reading a book by the light of concentrated sunlight. She was wearing light clothes and looked completely comfortable. The temperature outside was minus 170 degrees, but inside the igloo it was warm enough that Lisa did not even need a jacket. "Sergeant Bryant," said Nexus through his communication device, "we are here to collect you." "Thank you," said Lisa. "Would you like a tour of the settlement before we go?" The aliens looked at each other. A tour? They were here to rescue someone from an impossible survival situation, and she was offering to give them a tour like she was showing off her house. Lisa led them through her tunnel system. She showed them the sleeping areas with their warm floors and comfortable ice furniture. She showed them the food storage areas where meat stayed perfectly preserved in natural freezers. She showed them the greenhouse where green plants were, growing in tropical warmth. The aliens could barely believe what they were seeing. Their instruments confirmed that every part of Lisa's settlement was warm and livable. She had not just survived on Cryo 7, she had created a place where anyone could live comfortably. "How is this possible?" asked Plural 7. "Our best scientists said this moon was impossible to survive on." "Your scientists were thinking about survival the wrong way," said Lisa. "They were trying to fight the cold. But cold is not your enemy if you know how to use it. Cold can preserve your food. Cold can make ice for building materials. Cold can make your heating system work better because the contrast creates stronger airflow." Lisa showed them her most impressive creation, the workshop where she had made tools that were better than the ones she started with. She had knives made from super hard ice that could cut through metal. She had measuring tools made from carved ice that were more precise than factory equipment. "The ice on this moon has been compressed by wind and cold for thousands of years," Lisa explained. "It is harder and stronger than most metals if you know how to work with it. Your test did not give me a survival challenge. It gave me the perfect building materials." The aliens realized that they had completely misunderstood what survival meant to humans. Other species tried to survive by enduring harsh conditions. Humans survived by changing harsh conditions into useful resources. When they returned to the observation ship, Nexus and Plural 7 had to write their final report. It was the hardest report either of them had ever written. "The human not only passed the Cryo 7 survival test," Nexus wrote, "she has created a permanent settlement that could support multiple individuals indefinitely. She has turned our most extreme survival challenge into a demonstration of human, engineering, and adaptation capabilities." The report was sent to every government in the Galactic Council. The reaction was immediate and strong. Some alien species were angry. They said the test was unfair because humans had advantages that other species did not have. Other aliens wanted to study Lisa's methods. The Korvac Empire requested detailed plans for igloo construction. The Thermal Federation wanted to understand how Lisa's heating system worked. Even the Zephyrians, who were naturally adapted to cold weather, wanted to learn from human ice-building techniques. Commander Jake Harrison received Lisa aboard the space station Meridian with full military honors. The entire crew gathered to welcome her back. She had not just passed an impossible test, she had made it look easy. "How do you feel about representing humanity in the most difficult survival challenge the galaxy has ever created?" Jake asked. Her. It was not that difficult, Lisa said. The aliens made the same mistake that most people make about cold weather survival. They thought the goal was to fight the environment. But the real goal is to work with the environment. Once you understand that, even the most extreme conditions become manageable. News of Lisa's success spread through human space, and then through the galaxy. The story became legend. Humans had faced a test designed to be impossible and had turned it into a comfortable living situation. The Galactic Survival Council quietly retired the Cryo 7 challenge. They admitted that if humans could turn their most extreme test into a pleasant camping experience, they needed to find new ways to understand species' capabilities. Lisa's ice settlement was left standing on Cryo 7 as a monument to human ingenuity. The aliens installed markers explaining what she had accomplished. Visitors from across the galaxy came to see the place where one human had turned an impossible survival test into a demonstration of why humans were such a successful spacefaring species. The settlement became known as Bryant Base. It was the first permanent human structure on Cryo 7, built with nothing but simple tools and human knowledge. It proved that humans did not just survive in impossible places. They made impossible places into homes. Lisa returned to her regular duties with the Earth Defense Corps, but she had become famous throughout human space. Children learned about her in school. Other survival specialists studied her techniques. The ice settlement methods she developed were used by humans on dozens of cold worlds across the galaxy. The aliens learned an important lesson from the Cryo 7 test. They learned that humans were not just tough because they could endure harsh conditions. Humans were tough because they could take any harsh condition and figure out how to make it work for them instead of against them. From that day forward, when aliens wanted to test human capabilities, they stopped thinking about what would be impossible for humans to survive. Instead, they started wondering what humans would build once they got there.